Hey guys, it's Atominator, so let's check out the New York Pro. This was the top 3 callout from the finals featuring Nick Walker, Justin Rodriguez, and Hassan Mostafa, who went 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Now, there was a lot of talk about Nick versus Blessing heading into this contest, since they had some stupid social media beef brewing. But yeah, it just goes to show how far removed from reality social media really is. Whether it's progress pics, cliche motivational quotes, or petty manufactured beefs, 90% of that stuff is meaningless garbage that doesn't hold much weight in the real world. Because at the end of the day, Nick was first and Blessing was sixth. They weren't even in the same callout, so we never got to see a direct comparison because Nick was just so far ahead. The only thing I'll say for Blessing is that he did look a little fuller and bigger here compared to the Indie Pro, but it was at the cost of conditioning, because he also looked considerably softer. Probably what he needs to shoot for is some sort of happy medium, but really he's still got a ton of work to do to grow into his frame and to bring up lagging body parts. That's the only way he's really going to move up. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's dive into the real comparison. And in the front double biceps, I'd give it to Walker. He's more balanced than Justin from top to bottom, and he's way more conditioned than Hassan. Overall, his physique is showing the most detail here, and this will hold true throughout the majority of the mandatories. If I'm going to nitpick, his right arm is noticeably smaller than his left, and you can catch this in the rear double as well. It's a minor asymmetry that many bodybuilders suffer from, but still a flaw. Otherwise, there's not too much to complain about. He looks great. Hassan is absolutely huge here. Those wheels had potential to be the best in the show by a mile, but he's just way too smooth. It's such a shame because I think if his conditioning had been on a similar level, he could have won the whole show. The mass and thickness he brings is just nutty. But he was off his game and justifiably fell to third. Rodriguez likewise looked a little off the mark. Not as bad as Hassan, but I don't think he was quite as sharp here compared to the Indie Pro, which he won just 1 week ago. I like his posing style in this, but Nick is the clear-cut winner. Moving on to the front lat spread, this is a bit of an odd one to call. Hassan is last because he's the narrowest and least conditioned, but between Justin and Nick, it's a little tougher to say. I like Nick's lower body more, but in terms of the upper body, that would probably go to Justin for those crazy capped delts and the thicker pecs. His lats also look a little fuller. They both have wide, blocky waists with long torsos, so I don't really love either of them, but would probably give this one to Justin by a hair. Again, Nick is more balanced, but he needs to bring up his lat width. The side chest goes to Nick, though. These guys all match up more or less equally size-wise, but Nick has the most polish. Justin's physique seemed to be at its softest from the side, so in fact, I might even bump Hassan Mostafa up into second here. Justin's probably still a little drier, but Hassan's got much greater roundness, especially through the arms. I really thought he looked excellent in the side shots, and wish he could have just dialed it in another 10 to 15%. That would have made this so much more interesting. Nick is sort of like the best of both worlds, though, with the roundness of Hassan and the hardness of Justin all rolled into one. It's an easy win for him here in the side chest. So at this point, they insert Rodriguez into the middle. Turns out that it didn't mean much in the end, but maybe the judges wanted to just see him stand next to Hassan, or maybe the lighting was uneven and they wanted to test that out. Who knows, but in this back double bi, I think you gotta give it to him. Justin's back is simply ginormous with better separation through the traps and rear delts than Nick. He's also edging him out through the shoulders and biceps. Once again, Nick's left bicep is significantly bigger than the right, which throws off his symmetry a bit. He does have much better forearms than Justin, though, I'll give him that. And of course, from the waist down, it's Walker all day. Those hamstrings and calves are pretty outstanding. I really like him in this pose, and he shows immense promise in it. He just needs to hone in on that back, and this could become one of the best back double biceps in the world someday. But as it is, Justin is still holding on for now. As for Hassan, his upper body looks pretty good, but the back is a little narrow, and I'm not sure why one arm is being held lower like that than the other. Maybe it's just because he's trying to avoid bumping elbows with Justin, or maybe it's a mobility issue in that shoulder or something. I'm not sure, but it looks kind of funny. But really, it's the lower body that costs him. Those glutes are saggy soft, and the hamstring definition is really faded. As for the rear lat spread, apparently Justin was cramping during prejudging and wasn't able to flare his lats properly. Thankfully, though, he experienced no such issues here at the finals, because Justin's width is insane in this pose. He takes this one decisively. It actually reminds me of Big Ramy, the way the back spreads out into this huge surface area, like a sail or something. It looks like he could go hang gliding with that thing. Nick looks utterly underwhelming by comparison. This might just be his weakest pose. I'm tempted to even put Hassan Mostafa ahead of him now because through the back, Mostafa is clearly better, but that lower half is still in off-season mode, so not sure it's fair to do that. It doesn't really matter either way because neither of one of them comes close to Justin right now. The side triceps is another great shot for Hassan. I would definitely put him ahead of Justin because the triceps are way thicker, but Nick still gets the nod because he's killing this pose. That massive horseshoe, the fine details running down the side of his leg, that Dorian-esque stance showing off the trailing calf, everything is on the money here. Even his midsection looks tight and hard. This is a thing of beauty. I wish more men's open competitors would take note and learn how to hit this one effectively, because Nick is proving you can still do it justice and look aesthetic, even as a modern-day mass monster. The ab and thigh is another easy win for Walker. We already know he's got the grainiest legs, but how about that midsection? Now, I may criticize his waistline because it is genetically big and blocky, regardless of how well he controls it. But the ab muscles themselves are very well developed and separated, and that deserves some praise in an age of distended stomachs and barely visible abs. Nick is showing once again that you can be massive and carry a tremendous amount of muscle without sacrificing your midsection. At least in the short run. Keep in mind he's still very young, so we'll have to see how his abs hold up in the next 5 to 10 years. It might just be that all the drug use and Palumboism hasn't caught up to him just yet. Anyway, in second place, I'd probably go with Justin. Hassan's legs are way more muscular, obviously, and they do look a little more separated now compared to the earlier front poses, but his abs are faded and he's still too narrow upstairs. He looks super bottom heavy in this shot. See, when he does this semi-most muscular version, that sort of masks his narrowness upstairs and the abs come to life more, so this is a much better look. He pulls into second if we're judging off of this. In the most muscular, yeah, Hassan's physique is finally starting to wake up as they near the end of this comparison round. He definitely got sharper as they went along, but as they say, it was too little, too late. But it is nice to finally see some cuts appearing at least. So right here, when they eventually all hit it together, my vote goes to Nick Walker. Yes, he looks the smallest, but this is mainly because the other guys are stepping forward. As we saw already from the other poses, Nick isn't really giving up size to anybody in this lineup. But when you look from head to toe, who can match his sharpness or vascularity through the legs and abs, even the arms as well? I'd say both Justin and Hassan have more striated chests, but that's about the only area that Nick isn't out-detailing them in. And in terms of proportions and structure, he's also probably the best. Justin's pose is all biceps and pecs, and not enough triceps or forearms. Hassan looks menacing, but he needs more separation through the quads and abs. And as we saw earlier, he's also a little narrow across the shoulders. So yeah, I'd give this one to Nick also. He basically took every single pose except the two back poses, and arguably the front lat spread. He was far and away the most conditioned bodybuilder on stage this weekend, with no shortage of quality mass. And even his posing was pretty respectable considering how young and inexperienced he is. I believe this was only his second pro show. So hats off to Nick Walker for a well-earned victory. I can see this kid doing some serious damage at the Olympia. If he brings another package like this, a top 10 finish is virtually guaranteed. I could even see him vying for a top 5 or 6 spot depending on the lineup. I'd expect to see him in that second call-out mix with guys like Hunter Labrada, Ian Valliere, Akeem Williams, maybe a James Hollingshead or Steve Kuklo if he qualifies. But who knows, it's still way too early to tell. Just thought I'd throw that in there in case you guys were wondering what my projections are. But that's gonna just about do it for this one. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth bodybuilding analysis like this. As always, it's the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.